Good afternoon slash evening, everybody. Hope you had a good Wednesday. We've got a little bit of Seahawks news, and I'm a little late to the gun here. I'm a little late off the starting blocks. I was out when this news dropped, and I was in no position to be able to make a video. So we've known for a couple hours now. If you're somebody who follows this team even somewhat closely, you probably already heard, but let's go through it anyway. The Seattle Seahawks have a new quarterback. Jacob Eason, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts and formerly of the Georgia Bulldogs, and most interesting to me, the Washington Huskies, is now a member of the Seattle Seahawks. So, with Wilson on injured reserve, the QBs are Geno Smith with Luton and Eason behind him. In what order? We don't totally know yet. Is Eason even going to be on the active roster going forward? We don't know that either. But either way, Eason is now, for at least today, a Seattle Seahawk. So, talking about this move, it may not end up meaning anything. He might only be here for literally 2 weeks while Wilson gets back. If Wilson's back for the Green Bay game, you may very well see Eason slide off the roster completely and go elsewhere. But it's not impossible to imagine that Eason is part of some long-term plan with this team because he is young and he is talented. And while I do definitely have my doubts about him from what I saw during his stint as a Washington Husky, he likes football enough to still be in the league after a year, so means something, I guess. I don't know. But we'll get all to that in a moment here when I talk more about Eason the player. But yeah, we've got a new quarterback for at least a couple weeks. And I will say this. Eason probably has more upside than a guy like Jake Luton. I actually think Jacob Eason has a lot of upside. I don't think he's done a whole lot to maximize his upside based off what I've seen from him because I did get to watch him a lot. But he probably has more upside than a lot of quarterback prospects out there. I think he is supremely talented, and I think that if there was a little more passion there, and I hate to use words like that, but in the case of Jacob Eason, I think it's warranted, he could be good, if only for that passion. So let's take a look at Jacob Eason as a player, and he's only thrown a few passes in the NFL. So we're going to go back to his college career to try to understand what we're dealing with here in Mr. Jacob Eason. So first of all, in terms of his build, he is a prototype. He is 6'6", 231 pounds. He's a big boy. He's got that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Joe Flacco height. He's big, and he's got those prototypical attributes that you want from a quarterback prospect. He's got a big arm, got a cannon of an arm. He can make a lot of throws. In terms of building a player in like Madden or something, Jacob Eason is the kind of quarterback that you might want. And if you also want to take a look at his college career stats, 2 years in Georgia, 1 year in Washington, he can play. First year freshman at Georgia, he was inaccurate, 55% completion, but he wasn't bad, and he was not good enough to lose his job the next year, barely play, and then transfer out to Washington. But at Washington, he did improve. He had a good season in 2019 with the Huskies, 64% completion, 3,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He played solid football for a decent Washington team. Not one of our best seasons by any stretch of the imagination. That was not a hugely memorable Huskies season, but he was not bad. And this all paints the picture of a guy who probably should have been a pretty hot prospect for the NFL. And it didn't work out that way. And from my vantage point as a fan of the Huskies, I just kind of felt like he didn't want it enough. And again, that's kind of an abstract thing. I don't like to talk about that kind of stuff all that often. But it just seemed to me that his passion for the game of football wasn't there. He was good at it and he liked it enough to play it. But I kind of got the sense that he was playing it so he could enable himself to find something else in life that struck him a little bit more. Or maybe he was just going to go through the motions of an NFL career and not totally devote himself to being the best player he could be. And there's certainly a market out there for talented, big backup quarterbacks. Maybe Jacob Eason will be that. But I just didn't see the pro-level chops from him. I saw a guy who played football because he was good at it and had the right build for it and looked like a football player, but not really a guy who had the drive. So that leaves us here now where we still have that talented player. He's still relatively young, but is there anything to salvage here with him? Odds are he's never even going to get the chance to show anything here. He's very good chance he's here for 2 weeks and then he's out. If maybe he gets into a little bit of a training camp competition with Luton and loser leaves town, but in all likelihood, Eason, him being here is not particularly relevant. I will admit that. In all likelihood, this is just going to be a tiny little footnote on the ledger of the 2021 Seahawks. But for whatever it's worth, I've always believed in Eason's talent. I believe that he had the potential to be a good NFL quarterback because he had the prototypical build. He had a good arm. He could, like I said, make all the throws. I don't think the light bulb's suddenly going to go on for him after a couple years in the NFL where he goes, oh, I actually love this game. Let me devote my life to it and become the best quarterback I can be. But if you're like me and you're starting to come to grips with the fact that Wilson will probably not be here in 2022 and that we are going to be needing to look elsewhere for a new quarterback, and you're thinking about the guys coming out in the draft the next 2 years, you're thinking about Daniel Jones, you're thinking about Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Ryan, or whoever it could be. The thought of Jacob Eason coming in and being that $100 bill you find on the sidewalk when you're walking down the street, and he just blossoms for you, it is enticing. Because again, I think he has the potential to be that. I don't think he's ever going to get there. But now that he's here, we can at least dream for a little bit. We can dream about where it could go. And again, it's probably not going to ever go there. But hey, as long as we're going to sign players like this, then the least we can do is try to talk about them as honestly as I can. And that's my read of Jacob Eason after watching him play 13 games for the 2019 Huskies. A lot of talent. Can he reach any of that admittedly sparkling potential? Time will tell. So I'm going to go and get out of here. Later video than I usually post. I will be streaming a little later, but let me know what you think. If you think anything of this signing, I know a lot of people might just shrug their shoulders at it. And under normal conditions, I would too. But the fact that this was a former Huskies quarterback caught my attention more than it would have had we signed Blake Bortles or somebody like that, who I have no connection to and no familiarity with whatsoever, really. All right. I'll see you guys later tonight. Go Hawks. Jacob Eason, welcome to the Seahawks. Let's see if your stay can last more than a couple weeks.